Hello there, Tarot Tube. I'm back. And this time, I'm here to talk about Ancestral Tarot. So I am reading this book on my little Kindle, and I'm reading it for the Ritual Society Book Club, which I'm enjoying very much. Shout out to them. And with this book, you're taken through a lot of exercises, meditation, spreads, just so much to think about in terms of getting in touch with your ancestry and getting messages from your ancestors. And it's been just a fabulous experience. But before I even got started, before I got the book, I had to think about what kind of decks I would use for this. And this is a piece of some other things that I want to talk about later, about how we use things from other cultures and when it's okay and when it's not, and what is and what isn't appropriation. It's big, it's touchy, so I'm not going to get there now, but I will say that my concerns about that definitely fueled how I chose the decks that I chose. I'm going like this because there's all these decks sitting around here as you're about to see. So what I did, and I admit privilege here that I can afford to do this, I got my DNA results. So now I have to tell you, this is from Ancestry.com. And what I've discovered about Ancestry.com is that it changes. It's like they take all the DNA and they throw it in this big pile, and then they sort it out based on what they have. So the more DNA samples they get, these percentages keep changing. So the first time I looked at it a few years ago, my Italian number was not quite as high. Now, I grew up thinking it was a full 50%, but apparently it's not. It's 41%. And what I think of as UK number is higher than I ever would have guessed. I thought it was a lot of German, but nope, not a lot of that. It's 46% UK, what I think of as UK and Northwestern Europe. So that's this stuff here, right? And here's my Italian. And then, surprise of surprise, Sweden and Denmark. All right, then, I did not, nobody, I don't think, huh? And I don't know what to make of the Aegean Islands, the Balkans, and then just a scooch of northern Italy. I thought there was more northern Italy than southern Italy, so I think it depends on how you think about what's north and south Italy. Anywho, that's how it came out. So basically, UK, England, Northwest Europe, Scotland, a little splash of Swiss and Denmark, and then Italy, right? So that's what I have to work with. I'm just going to leave this little map here. So what I'm telling myself is, listen, if you're going to be legit and try to, stay inside the line, stay in your lane, so to speak, DNA-wise, this is what I'm going to try to stick with. So first, for just sort of general stuff where I'm not trying to figure out my maternal or paternal specifically. So it's my paternal, my father's side, that's the Italian side, and it's my mother's side, that's the UK, Scotland, Sweden side. And she always thought more German than is showing up here. I mean, we're not even seeing German as a thing. So for just general stuff, I'm doing a lot of my readings here with the Relative Tarot. If you haven't seen it, I'll just show you a few cards. This book is really super, super interesting, and she's got her own way of relating majors to minors, a lot of numerological stuff. So I really studied that so I could understand what her perspective was. Carrie Parrish, that's the her in question. So this is what the deck looks like. So it's is it collage, or it's manipulated photos, I guess, probably. So there are photos, and so you're going to see some traditional artwork from Pamela Coleman Smith in here, but with the photos. And this just sort of makes me feel like, I'm looking at ye oldie photos, right? But it helps me get that that feeling of I'm looking towards people who were alive a while ago. And yes, I have used some reversals in here, so that's why it's not completely in order. So I think it's just a beautiful deck. I would use it for general readings too, but for the time being, I've put it aside and it's in my little box where I'm keeping all my materials that I'm using for this ancestral work. So that's so far this is the deck that I have used the most, and it works for me DNA wise. Sort of a backup to that I am using sometimes if I feel called to it is I will pull Danny Mystic's deck, little things here, her Mystic Masters. This is the first edition, which I don't know what her stock is. I don't know if she still has first edition decks available or it's all her second edition where she's made some changes. I believe all of the art images are the same and that she's just made changes to how she's manipulated and added to these images. But this also is useful for me. It's got that whole Western civilization thing going for it. And again, some pretty clear references to RWS meanings, some symbolism. Yep. So that's that one. Beautiful deck. I love I love the way this feels. It feels so good to me. One of my favorite cardstocks. She may have changed that too, but I'm not sure. So forget what I said. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. Two other kind of generic decks I might use when I'm in the mood to do playing card style readings for ancestral work. This is the deck that I use. This is the 1885 bicycle, and I like it. I love this sort of steam pump, these backs, right? They're just great. But on this side, just standard bicycle playing card. There's nothing particular about it, but it's very clean and clear. So, you know, if I'm doing a spread that's got 9 cards in it, it's very easy to scan it and look at it and pick things out. And then this is on the side because I haven't learned Lenormand yet, but I am signed up for a class with Kelly at Truth and Story. Sounds like I'm doing lots of commercials here. And this is the deck that I chose to use for that class because it has both the playing cards and older images. These are obviously not modern images, so I feel like that would help me pull up older memories, right? So I'm looking forward to learning how to read this very, very much. All right, so putting all that to the side, then in another just sort of generic way, I feel like because tarot is from this, at one point, Italian card game, tarocchi, I feel like any older tarot de Marseille, any of these decks, I feel like I have a genuine DNA connection to. So this is the Tarot de Marseille, and it feels authentic to my ancestral work. So I would use that. So now we're going to get into which side of the family are we on. So let's talk about the Italian side first. So for starters, I feel like anything at all, not anything at all, but most things that come out of the Lo Scarabeo catalog, I feel like I got a legit claim on those. And oddly enough, so I pulled out a Lo Scarabeo catalog online and I flipped through it and I was like, what makes sense for me? And guess what? I did not realize that this was a Lo Scarabeo deck, the Happy Tarot. So I put this aside. So when I'm working with the Italian side of my family, I can pull this aside. And I sort of like it because the Italian side of my family, now both sides of my family, I can go back 4 generations and know all the names and where they were. And then on my mother's side, I can go back much further, 6, 7, 8 generations sometimes. But I can go pretty far back, and I know that on my Italian side, well, on both sides, these were not highly refined, highly educated people. They were what we would think of as blue collar. They were workers, they were farmers. When they had skills, the kind of skills they had were things like carpenter, shoemaker, right? Once they got to America at various points, then we have insurance salesmen and stockbroker and things like that. But mostly when you go back a couple of generations, a bunch of farmers. And the Italian side in particular, they, as I mean, it's a little bit of a stereotype, but they had sort of made their peace with the fact that they didn't have a lot of material wealth. They were tenant farmers, the ones that I was able to get lots of information on. They were tenant farmers, and they sort of accepted that. And like, of my grandfather's siblings, I think he had 9. There were only 2 who left Italy. The rest of them stayed. They were like, okay, we're good with being poor farmers because we're happy and we have our family and we always have enough to eat and we love it. We love life. We're staying. There were only a couple that came over. Now, they're the ones I'm related to, obviously. But so now I'm sort of flipping through another Italian deck. So if I want to go back, a few hundred years for the Italians, then I feel like this is a legit deck for me to use, the Solabusca Tarot. Right? So I think the combination of these two feels good to me, but I would not rule out, if I ever found a good farmer deck, somebody who really works the land, that would be fine with me. And I do have several kind of earthy decks, but nothing that really, nothing that really says ancestral work to me. So that's the Italian side. Now we're going to go over to the other side of the family. So I am just charmed and delighted that odds are that I've got somebody back there, more than one person, who maybe, was a druid. But definitely this deck, which I absolutely adore, the Enchanted Forest, love it, love it, love it. I feel that this is really great for my mother's side of the family. Now, we're jumping back a few generations for this kind of stuff because there were some very religious people on my mother's side. I have Mennonites, I've got Pennsylvania Dutch. I have a Methodist minister who was, let's say, emotionally scarred from fighting in the Civil War on the Union side, thank goodness. And when he got out, he became a minister and was super, super, super strict. Like, if you see a picture of him, you go, wow, okay, I wouldn't want to sit down and hang out with this guy. But yeah, so I feel like this has some really good energy for me to look through. And then the Druidcraft, which I think this really touches on a lot of this UK Scottish energy for me. So I like being able to use this one. And then I have a late entry into this, and that is that little bitty piece that I have that's Swedish. And I thought, oh gosh, Swedish, I know nothing about this, but okay. So I got this. I got the Forhatsa, which is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. It's a little, I've just used it for my morning reading, so if you want to see what my 3-card morning reading was, there they are. I'm not going to tell you what it means though. But if you haven't seen this deck, and I know that, I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, but MJ Cullinane, I think. I know she's got a lot of fans out there, so you've probably seen some of these. But gosh, I didn't realize I had this so mixed up. It's just, wow. You can see I can't really come up with words for it because I just think it's so beautiful, and I've been getting really amazing readings with this because it just taps into something that feels very deep inside of me. Right, so there's that. So those are the decks that I came up with. I thought I would just share that. I'm going to share it with my Ritual Society Book Club folks. Looking forward to our meeting later this month. And if you are doing any kind of ancestral work, I would love, 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 love to know what decks you're using and how it's working out for you. If you are if you've read this book, let me see if I can wet this back up. So this is Nancy Henderson is our author here for this one. Yeah, Nancy Hendrickson. If you use this book, I'd be very curious to hear what you've learned about it. And I guess, you know, and send me a VR. We could hashtag this if there's enough people interested. I'd be really curious. What decks are you using for your ancestral tarot? I hope you found this interesting. I hope it kind of sparked some curiosity for you about what you have that you might use for ancestral tarot work. And if you want to contribute, just jump on in, leave something in the comments, make a video, be sure to tell me, and I will see you in the next time. Thanks for stopping by. Find joy.